Guys, I have some great news that I want to share starting this video. I've actually recording this within the week of finishing the season. Woo! I hope this is gonna sound a lot less awkward when I put in a weird applause. Woo! So, if you guys saw my previous two seasons, I think with four too. I think they have the same issue with four. But I don't fully remember. But with season 6 and season 5, it had been a bit since I watched the season, but guess what? So I'm sitting here recording this on Friday, September 15th. I'll also just give you an idea of how long it'll take to get through all these videos and when this is coming out. So I'm sitting here recording this on Friday, September 15th. I finished season 7 on Tuesday. So it's been a couple days. So let's talk about it. So another good thing about this recording session, I guess you could say, is that I'm also recording this the same week that I recorded season 6. So I am still, I think, fairly familiar with what I said there. Hopefully familiar enough to talk about it. So let's talk about, again, sort of following up what I've done the past couple of seasons. Let me look at the characters and what is explored with them here in this season. Once again, Obi Wan is barely in this show. I mean, it's sort of weird, with the last 4 episodes, because it feels like a split season finale. It's what it is. Because, it feels like and I'm gonna have to rewatch Revenge of the Sith for this, to talk about this, because I do want to rewatch it now, having seen Clone Wars, but the way it's handled is that, Ahsoka and Rex is part of the finale, and Obi Wan and Anakin in Revenge of the Sith is the other part. So Obi Wan's character work is handled there in that movie, but it's not really done in this show. So there's not really that much to talk about with Obi Wan. The biggest thing is him saying that Anakin, I guess he was just annoyed at Anakin for killing Dooku because it means he won't get any information out of him. Which is quite ironic, because he's annoyed that he killed Dooku, not that he broke the Jedi code. They killed Dooku for the information, not because he broke the Jedi code. It shows that Obi-Wan himself was still lost, even though he couldn't really see it. And he doesn't really get that much else. They have that cool fight in the beginning of the 4 episode segment, which I'm going to count as like a movie, by the way. I wasn't sure when I was going to... I figured I would wait until I talk about those 4 episodes to say it, but those last 4 episodes are basically a movie, so I'm going to call it a movie. Just am. So at the beginning of the movie, Anakin and Obi-Wan, they obviously have a little dialogue, but again, like, Obi-Wan's just not really in it that much. So Anakin gets a little bit. The first storyline with the Bad Batch, he does get some. And you have his final scene with Ahsoka, which that just broke my heart. Just like, if you watched my season 5 review, season 5, I talked about how what's so tragic about their relationship is because, Anakin's going to turn. It's one that's bound, that is just, we know is just going to be broken down. And so seeing their final scene before, right, their last scene is Anakin and Ahsoka. It was just really sad, right? Because next time they see each other, he's obviously Vader, and she's no longer, and she's, they're both different. It's both the last version of themselves, because Ahsoka, after this, from my understanding, is no longer a Jedi, and Anakin is also no longer a Jedi because he's Darth Vader. So that was really sad to see it be like the last time they're friends. So that was really crushing, and he did get a little with the Bad Batch. Like, there was this great line that really encapsulated his character where Anakin's getting information from Thresh, where Thresh is like, you're a Jedi, you don't kill or torture, and Anakin's like, I don't have those weaknesses. I think it really sums up his character quite well. And again, it works with all, it works because Clone Wars really showed not told. Did show not tell with Anakin, when it felt like the movies did tell not show more so. But you could see the pain of Anakin, and you could see why he became that way. Both because of Palpatine and because the Jedi Code has, I guess, cost him. If he hadn't followed the Jedi Code, he would have lost people. If he hadn't done what he did, like, let's be real here. If Anakin didn't torture Thresh for the information, all those clones and Mace Windu and Obi Wan, those people he cared about would have died. Straight up. And the thing I'm always reminded of is, I might have been Thresh then too. I don't think it was though. But in like season 2, where Ahsoka was being killed by that parasite, or the parasite from that one planet was invading the ship, and Ahsoka was about to die, and Anakin tortured information out of someone. Like, if he didn't do that, Ahsoka would have died. It doesn't make it right, obviously. I'm not condemning torture, but I'm saying you can see from a man who's so broken, life broke him so much, you can see why he feels that way, why he did the things he did. And so it's just, again, the resolving of that characterization. And like I said with Obi Wan, the finale of all this characterization is, of course, Revenge of the Sith. So I really will have to rewatch that with Clone Wars in mind now. Count Dooku, I don't think he gets like any screen time in season 7, because again, he's killed right at the start of the movie off screen. I'm saying that because again, it feels like it's two separate storylines. He's killed in the Anakin Obi-Wan storyline, which is not shown in this season. Dooku's killed there, and so is Grievous. And it just doesn't feel like they're just not really here that much. They're not in the season at all. So I don't know. There's not really much anything to say. And Palpatine, at this point, all the pieces have been set for the plan and everything. So, again, Palpatine's focus is obviously in the Anakin Obi-Wan storyline. So he's not really here too, but you just sort of see, again, it's a culmination of everything the show and really Attack of the Clones also has done and has shown that Palpatine's presence is enormous once again, and he's not in this season at all. He's just a mastermind, and he played the Jedi in exactly the way he needed to work. Which is what happened. I mean, really, the biggest villain, so you have Thresh as the villain in the first storyline. The second storyline, you have the Pikes, but also, Life and the Empire. Not really the Empire. You have Life. It's Pikes and Life, really, are the villains in the second storyline. And in the third storyline, it's it's Maul and clones, right? Because Order 66. So Palpatine isn't in here, but a lot of that stuff is he has a hand in a lot of it. So yeah, I'll say the one thing I am curious about, legitimately curious about, is we never saw. So in season 5, no, it wasn't season 6. So it must have been season 5 when Palpatine killed Savage Opress and beat down Darth Maul like it was nothing, which was such a badass scene, by the way. Palpatine spared Maul because he said, "I have a use for you." And we never really saw what that was. So I'm curious, like, what Palpatine had planned, especially because, you know, I guess we can talk about Darth Maul a bit more now. I liked Maul in the movie, but like, Maul in the movie is his best version of himself in Clone Wars. But the best version of himself that I've seen, because in Phantom Menace, he doesn't really do that much either. But in, you know, the movie, he puts together what Palpatine's plan is, and he tried to lure Obi Wan and Anakin to Mandalore to kill Anakin, to prevent him from becoming Vader. Which again seems very anti what Palpatine wants. In fact, I know it's very anti what Palpatine wants. So, you know, what did Palpatine exactly want from him? Like, what was he hoping Maul would do? Was Maul just hoping he would cause chaos as a distraction? Because he did do a good job of that. But Maul, like, it didn't seem like Maul really did much to help Palpatine, aside from just be a distraction. I guess what he could have done is, I mean, he probably had the Jedi pinned into a corner already, but it could have helped him to have all the black market shit Maul was doing cause more civil unrest and sort of cause the citizens to look to the Jedi as being like, this is your problem. Why, you know, this is what you're supposed to be doing. Why aren't you handling this at all? And the Jedi are so focused on the war. But, you know, so that may be a very legit strategy, but that's not something that is ever really mentioned or discussed. So that's probably what it was, just thinking about it more, but it would have been cool if they, I guess, mentioned it again. Yeah. So I was planning on talking about Maul more, but I'm just going to talk about it more when I actually talk about, you know, the movie and whatnot. So, which, by the way, I feel like it should be given a name, a proper name. It can't be Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the movie, because there already is a Clone Wars movie. Which, if you don't know, that I haven't rewatched the movie, by the way. I saw it when it came out, and I haven't seen it since. But the Clone Wars, the movie, is like what started the show, right? Like, it takes place before season 1 and everything. So, yeah, but I don't know. It can't be episode 3 because there already is episode 3. But it kind of feels like it should be episode 3 because because they're so interconnected. This and Revenge of the Sith and the Clone Wars, like, it's all one big story. Like I said, it's a branching season finale. So I don't know what you call it. Episode 3, Attack on Mandalore, but that's not really the case since the back half of it is just Order 66. I don't know. Episode 3, The Jedi Falls. I don't know. I'm not really good at naming these kind of things, but it's something to think about for the future. And maybe by the time I get to editing this, I'll have a name for you and I'll pop it in right here. Right here. Yeah, anyway, so I'll talk about Maul when I actually get to those episodes. And I'm actually going to do the same thing with Ahsoka. Because Ahsoka gets a lot of great character work. She is the main character of the movie, and she has a great storyline right before that. So I'm going to go in depth on her anyway. I might as well just wait until that. So what instead I'm going to focus on is Bo-Katan and the Mandalorian. So Bo-Katan makes her final appearance of the show in this episode. So she appears in the movie, and she appears at the end of the storyline right before that. And Bo-Katan wants to reclaim Mandalore. Oh, well, they do reclaim Mandalore. And but again, like it sort of feels like it shouldn't be the main focus of like the title, because the second half is just Order 66. That's what it is. It's the Attack on Mandalore and Order 66 put together. But anyway, what was I gonna say? Oh, it's sort of, I guess, interesting to see Bo-Katan. It feels like her story isn't really complete. I mean, I don't know if she shows up in Rebels at all. But knowing the Bo-Katan from Clone Wars to Mandalorian, it feels like there's a big gap. And I'm not just talking about the fact that, Mandalore is bombed, right? You know, sometime during the Empire's rule, I'm going to assume early Empire, the Empire bombs Mandalore and it becomes a wasteland that we see in season 3. My guess is the Mandalorians had some kind of uprising against the Empire, and the Empire showed it as a sign of dominance, kind of like what the Capitol did to District 13 in Pan Am, the Hunger Games series. What was I gonna say? Oh, it still feels like Bo-Katan. It doesn't feel like Bo-Katan of the Mandalorian would join Death Watch. Like, it sort of feels like she has more morals and a bit of a moral code. A little bit more. Like, she feels more like a hero than she does in this. Because she still isn't, you know, she has that a little bit in the movie where she's sort of fighting for what's right for her people. But it wasn't that long ago that she was a part of Death Watch, which really was too idealistic. It was kind of like the Jedi, in that they were too idealistic about pushing their goals and their power, that they didn't really focus on what was best for her people. So it's kind of like, oh, now you want to do what's best for your people? You didn't really want to do that before. So I don't know, maybe she learned the error of her ways, I guess, is what you could say, but it still doesn't feel like that transformation. I feel like that transformation started, but it's not complete. So I don't know if she does appear in Rebels at all. We'll see, I guess, or I'll see. And you know, if you guys have seen Rebels, you know the answer to this question already. But so yeah, it's sort of interesting that it sort of helps connect the dots a little bit, but it doesn't fully do that. Like, there's still a gap, which makes sense. I mean, so there's like 20 plus years in between this and Mandalorian season 6, at least 20 years, probably closer to 25 if I were to guess. So obviously that's a long time, and that's a long time for people to change and whatnot, but like, you know, still. Okay, so let's get into it now. The first storyline is with the Bad Batch. Also, first off, one thing I want to point out right away, because this was something I noticed right away starting the first episode, was that how different the animation is, or was, for this season compared to season 6. Especially because I think, did I start the first episode right after finishing season 6? There wasn't that much time in between seasons. If it wasn't, you know, if it wasn't right away, it's probably like a day. You know, like the next day I started season 7, and there was a really big difference. It's interesting, and I know season 7 was Disney Plus only, I think, right? Yeah, the animation is just really different. It's just a really interesting choice. And yeah, I forgot about this too, just thinking about the episodes again. Anakin talks with Padme. They're still keeping their relationship a secret. But Padme's definitely pregnant, I would think, at that time. It's probably around the time Padme figured out she's pregnant. And it makes me curious. Okay, so I will say it makes me curious about Obi Wan and how much he knows. because I remember, you know, it's been a while since I've seen Revenge of the Sith, but I've seen clips, both just from seeing them, and from like other people using them in videos, both as memes or watching videos about Star Wars. And I know that what Obi Wan says to Padme, like right around the time Anakin's turning in Revenge of the Sith, like, he's the father, isn't he? Right? Like, so he pieces that together. I wonder how much he knows at this point about them being an item. Does he suspect it? Because you would think if he suspects it, he would say something to Anakin in private. Like, look, dude, I know you care about Padme a lot. I can sense that there's more going on here than just friends, but you have to be careful. You know, these emotions can be really harmful. They can, and I would know. And honestly, Obi-Wan's not a bad person to talk about this, right? Because of what he had with Duchess Satine on Mandalore, and how him, even as a Jedi, he had a little bit of trouble separating emotion from his duty. You know, and so he can say, like, this can get messy and complicated and bad real quick. Like, I just friend to friend, you know, like, you need to be careful. Like, I would think Obi-Wan would say something like that. If he suspected or knew, you know, because I think he would know Anakin wouldn't listen to the council. I think he would know if it was coming from the council. He would be like, fuck that. But Anakin and Obi-Wan, they obviously really care about each other. Both of them do. They're kind of like brothers. You were my brother, Anakin! Ugh, those lines are so stupid. Just the way they're written. I loved you! But they were, like, brothers. Like, it's not wrong to say that. And so I think Obi-Wan would know to say it in private that, you know, hey, Anakin, you might just want to be careful. I don't know. Anyway, Bad Batch. So I know I just did a tangent on like a 2-second part of this episode, but let's actually talk about this episode. This episode was a solid one. It was a solid one. It was definitely the worst part of the season, but it was still good. You know, seeing Rex not wanting to leave any man behind is, you know, tragic. You know, it's both a way to once again hammer home that each clone has a life. You know, they're an individual human. They're not expendable. You know, insert the Plo Koon again. But not to me.
Sergeant, why are you so certain no one is coming?
We're just clones, sir. We're meant to be expendable.
Not to me.
Which just makes it even more tragic when they have to be killed, right? When, you know, when at the end, the only way Ahsoka and Rex survive is by killing them. Or letting them die, you could say. Because the ship was crashing. Is by letting them die. It's sad. And, of course, you have Plo Koon, too, sticking up for his clones left and right, only to be shot by them. Like, just the irony there is really twisted. You know, just like how I said, I think it was in Season 3... Yeah, it was in Season 3 and Season 5. Like, so in Season 3, when Ahsoka rescues those younglings from the deserted island, that was tragic because you knew they weren't going to live very long. And the same thing goes for those Padawans that we see getting their Kyber crystals in Season 5, I think. It was either 5 or 4. Like, they're dead men walking. They just are. They were probably all at the Jedi Temple when Anakin and the Special Squadron, I don't remember which one, comes in and kills them all. Like, it's just what happens. So the brutal irony again of that is just oh sad. But the Bad Batch are cool. Now I interesting to see the show how they handle Order 66. Maybe because they're not normal. Do they still have the chip? Like, do they have the chip? Do they not have the chip? I don't know. I mean, obviously I'm going to have to watch that show. But I did feel like a little bit, like, as cool as they were, it did feel like a little bit, like, I don't remember what the term is. But it's like an episode of a show that was very much meant to, like, set up a spinoff. That's, you know, that it very clearly, this episode storyline very clearly had that in it. You know, it was very clear, like, oh, I don't remember the exact timetable of like was Bad Batch the show announced as Clone Wars Season 7 was coming out, or was it after Clone Wars Season 7 came out that they said, hey, you remember that Bad Batch are getting their own show? I don't know. Either way, it did feel like that a little bit at times. But it was still a solid episode. I already talked about Anakin, you know. I don't have such weaknesses to Thresh, but, yeah. I don't know. This was a good episode. I enjoyed it. And in a sense, I'm kind of sad that they killed Thresh, because I'm very curious what a live-action version of that would have looked like. But at the same time, Thresh was kind of annoying. I kind of found... he kind of was on that border of kind of funny and kind of annoying to me. So... But... I mean, I assumed most of the generals... Not... I was going to say Confederate generals. No. Most of the Separatist. I assume most of the Separatist generals were killed because the Republic won the war. And I imagine Palpatine, again, similar to how Palpatine... I'm not going to get out the lightsaber and do it again. If you want to see me do it again, I did it both in the Season 6 and Season 5, where I swung my lightsaber and did... Lord Sidious promised us peace! Okay. Fine. Yeah, move my chair out of the way. Oh, my hand should be burning right now. It's touching the blade. Lord Sidious promised us peace! I don't have such weaknesses. That's Anakin to Thresh before he killed him. And then he's getting electrocuted. You didn't really see that. I don't have such weaknesses. Light really does look pretty cool, I have to say. The blue light sort of refracting off of the light. I know that what I'm saying is making no sense, but anyway. So my question is, so honestly, Anakin killed Gunray, Viceroy Gunray, who thought he would get his. Lord Sidious promised us peace. The war is over. That's what I think of your promise and your peace. So I wonder if, obviously I would be surprised if Anakin himself did it, but were the other generals killed off? Do we know? I imagine they had to go into hiding and sort of disguise their identity, because who would want to help them out after that? I'm just throwing my lightsaber now. Anyway, so I am a bit curious, and I'm going to put this away now so I can actually talk coherently. Okay, I'm going to do that right now. Right now. Lord Sidious promised us peace. I'm not doing it. Right now. Okay, so it's time to talk about the next storyline now. Season 7, Episode 5 through Season 7, Episode 8. These 4 episodes. Let me say, hold on, I should get the episode titles. First starts with Gone with a Trace, not Gone Without a Trace. And ends with Together Again. And so this is a really interesting storyline. So the premise is that Ahsoka crash lands. Yeah, so she does crash land. And don't forget, she's still like running. She's still she doesn't want to conceal her identity. She doesn't want to reveal her identity or anything yet. She crash lands on this place in Lower Coruscant, one of the lower levels of Coruscant, where she meets these two sisters, Trace and Rafa, and she kind of hangs out there, hangs out there for a little bit. I mean, Ahsoka and Trace they into each other. I don't know. I thought there might have been a kiss at the end, but I don't know. But anyway, it's a very interesting episode because it's interesting to see Ahsoka's Jedi morals be challenged in such a way, and they're not challenged in a way of right or wrong. It's not really ever questioned that what Ahsoka's doing or what Ahsoka's saying is the morally right thing to do. The question is how much of those principles, how much of those principles really matter, or how much are you willing to bend those principles to survive? So, Rafa and Trace, they don't have a lot of cash. They're kind of just going day to day. They make deals with mobsters, and the biggest deal that's the large focus in this storyline is they're delivering spice to the Pikes because, of course, Star Wars has now become Dune. I'm sorry. I mean, my first introduction to all this spice stuff was Boba Fett, the Book of Boba Fett, and there it's just, especially like reading Dune after. Because I read Dune after seeing Book of Boba Fett, and it's just like, this is Dune! It's just Dune! Since when has Star Wars become Dune? And also, I'm going to do a quick interjection, by the way. So, I don't know when this video is going to come out. My plan is to be done with all these Clone Wars videos by Halloween. In which case, if you're watching this around Halloween, there should be a Dune movie review for part 1 up soon. I'm going to have to watch that, record that. For all I know, I've already done that by the time by the time you're watching this, and I just have to edit it. It's highly likely that has already happened. But so I'm going to put that out. But if that has not, if this video has come out after Halloween, if I have not reached that goal, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be doing the Dune review, then uploading this video, or whatever Clone Wars video is next. I hope it's this one. Otherwise, then I'm doing 6 and 7. I would not have gotten that much done. So, I want to do a movie review for Dune Part 1, and I've also read the book, by the way. I should make that clear. But that was before I started doing these, which is why there's not a book review for that. And I want to get that done before Dune Part 2 comes out, because I'm excited to watch that and do a review of that. Anyway, back to Star Wars. Okay, so that interjection aside, it is really interesting to see, again, that sort of conflict, because what Ahsoka comes to realize is that those principles, they don't pay the bills. And by the way, I should say this episode isn't arguing against those principles. What it's saying is that they're a bit too idealistic. And that not everyone can afford that life. And sort of saying, it's a great take on, I guess, a lot of this, it feels like it can apply to American society a lot, is that, not everyone is privileged enough to be able to live by those principles fully and completely. And I'm in a state of privilege where I don't have to worry about that, right? Where I can do that. But not everybody gets that opportunity. Some people, like Trace and Rafa, they have to decide between this morally, sticking by their morals, or putting food on the table, or, bending the rules a little bit to putting food on, to be able to not die, right? Like, it's made pretty clear that Rafa, Rafa basically says, like, without these jobs, we wouldn't have anything. We wouldn't have food. We wouldn't be able to do anything. Rafa's only able to pay the money she owes the mob with, I think it was a spice, but if not, it was a different job. It was a different, like, shady job. Like, again, it's all about, not everyone is privileged enough where they can, where they have not everyone has that luxury of being able to follow by those principles and put food on the table. And again, it's just interesting for Ahsoka herself, especially, to see that, because she's one who, she was blinded by the politics, but she kind of slowly learned that there was more going on, and she slowly saw that the Jedi were being blinded by all this. And so she's now seeing for the first time, she saw basically in season 5, the end, when she was expelled. She basically saw that the Jedi themselves had abandoned those principles, or rather, they were only pretending to follow those principles, or they didn't see, whatever you want to say, they didn't see how far they have abandoned those principles. I'm going to say that's probably what that was, because Mace Windu still has a stick up his ass. Not really here. He still does have a stick up his ass. It's the one time he appears in the movie, but he still has a stick up his ass, like in the show, about sticking by the Jedi principles and doing what the Jedi code says, but then turning the other cheek when it comes to, the Clone Wars. So, Ahsoka sort of sees that the Jedi aren't really following those principles, or to the extent that they should be, at the very least. So now she sees that those principles aren't really a thing that's permanent in society anymore. But now she's seeing why. I don't want to say why. She's sort of seeing that those principles aren't enough. At least for some people, they're not enough. They're not enough to get by. They're not enough to put food on the table. And so it's a very interesting conflict. What I do like about this episode too, though, is it sort of says that you can still, I guess, follow the principle in small ways, or you can have a limit, right? Like, okay, the Pikes are incredibly dangerous people who use the spice to kill, for, it said use it to kill. I don't really remember them saying that in previous Clone Wars, but whatever. They use the spice to do bad things, especially because the spice is like going to Maul. So, not really a good thing. So, you could draw the line there and sort of saying, hey, this maybe is something where we should try to stay away from. Especially because it kind of does endanger their lives too. But you can also say, stealing, right? What they ended up doing is they stole spice to get back at Ahsoka. I mean, not to get back at Ahsoka, to free Ahsoka. And you could say that while stealing is wrong, obviously stealing is wrong. You know, I honestly, I wish I had the psychology term. Hold on. Here we go. Yeah, so it's sort of conventional versus post-conventional morality. And, you know, conventional, right, I think, hold on. Yeah, you know, so like, from my understanding, right, it's sort of like where morality gets really complex. And again, I don't want to, you know, quote this, but, you know, I think, right, yeah, because, like, from my understanding, and again, I'm not the psych expert, I'm just remembering what I took, you know, from a psych class, is that conventional morality is about very strictly black and white. This thing is illegal. Here, let me just Google. Hold on. Conventional morality. Yeah. Morality is characterized by an acceptance of, yeah, here we go. Conventional morality is characterized by an acceptance of society's conventions concerning right or wrong. So, so conventional morality would sort of say, stealing this thing is wrong, right? Because stealing is wrong. Stealing is wrong. And I'm not going to say stealing isn't wrong, but, you know, and I remember the example they use in the psych class NIC. I'm going to post the website. I'll try to remember to post the website that I'm looking at right here. Because this website uses that example too, is that, you know, the husband, you know, husband's wife is on their deathbed, and she needs this very important medicine to live, to survive, and the husband doesn't have the money. Like, they don't have the money to afford it. So the question is, do you steal the drugs to save your wife? And conventional morality would say no, because stealing is wrong. And post-conventional morality would sort of say, well, yes, stealing is wrong, but does that mean that, you know, I'm stealing for a good cause, I guess you could say, right? Like, I'm stealing to save my wife, and because there's no other option, you know, and you could say that the value of a human's life is far greater than the value of breaking, you know, of the law. And so, you know, you could say that, and you can make that argument for why you should steal. And it really is those kind of moralities really battling it out in this episode. And so Ahsoka really, in this episode, she represents the more conventional morality. This is all, by the way, I just have to say, this is making me really want to do my own separate, like, scripted video essay on this episode, or on this storyline, and maybe I will at some point. I'm going to write it in my, actually I'm going to do it right now. I have a list of possible video essay ideas to do, if I ever get around to doing them, which is something I do want to do some point. Here we go. Okay, so hopefully you guys will, hopefully I'll get around to that at some point. It definitely is something I do want to do, but I sort of feel like after these I want to do more non-Star Wars videos. Especially because I'm gonna have Rebels coming up, so when I do plan on doing video essays, I'll probably take a little bit to get to the Star Wars ones. But anyway, you know, Ahsoka in this episode really represents conventional morality, right? She is saying, you know, hey, these mobsters are mobsters. Don't work with them. They're evil. The Pikes do evil things. They're the Pikes. Maybe we shouldn't be engaged with them. And Rafa represents the more post-conventional morality of how are we supposed to feed ourselves? How are we supposed to survive? These are ways for us to make money that isn't available to us normally, right? Especially with remember one of the things was the droids. You know, and that's where it's sort of the moralities. It's an interesting decision. That one is because they're asked to repair these droids, and these droids turn out to be public hazards who can really hurt people, and Trace almost dies, and you know, it forces Ahsoka to use her force powers and sort of reveal herself to like that little kid who's like, you're a Jedi, aren't you? But didn't say anything. And you know, so again, it's the sort of conventional versus post-conventional morality of conventional morality saying we can't let these things into the public, it'll kill people. And the post-conventional morality of Rafa is saying, well, while that's true, we need money to not die. We need money to live, and this is a way we're getting money. And I mean, again, it's an interesting moral debate, and I think there are ways that maybe you can be in the middle somewhere. Maybe there are ways. Again, I'm not really one to talk about this. I'm lucky. Again, I am privileged where I do not have to make these decisions. I do not have to question how far would I be willing to bend my morals to put food on the table. Not everyone is. And that's really what is so great about the storyline. But I would hope that while, you know, you could talk about stealing and everything like that, especially when it's from larger corporations, right? I mean, if we're explicitly going to talk about a real world parallel, again, I'm not advocating stealing. I need to make that crystal clear. But if the choice is between stealing from Target or starving because you have no money, Target's not going to probably worry. I don't know if I should be talking about this, but it's sort of what's interesting about this episode, right? And there's a difference between a corporation who's not going to really care about that money, well, not care. A corporation whose loss isn't going to hurt them that much, and a small business who is relying on their business to put food on the table. You know, but I sort of still hope that Trace and Rafa and those like it can find balances without hurting people. You know, I know this is going to be a weird comparison talking about 30 Rock, but I've been sort of rewatching 30 Rock. And there's this episode where Kelsey Grammer, he plays Frasier, if you don't know, on Frasier and Cheers. She teams up with Jenna Maroney, played by, hold on, let me get the name right. Jenna Maroney. Jane Krakowski? I don't want to pronounce it wrong. I think it's Jane Krakowski. I'll put the name up. And they scam Carvel. And again, this is all played for comedy, but the reason I bring it up is this. They scam Carvel. Now, they don't need the money. They're rich celebrities. But they do it because they can and because it's free money. But right, like Kelsey Grammer's on multiple 30 Rock episodes. He clearly had a good time. I don't know why I decided to bring that up. But anyway, so they scam Carvel, and they think basically what the scam is they have I just wanted to save that footage before I deleted it. And just in case I would lose it. But so they got a Carvel for life card, and they could use it to buy cakes and get cakes for free. But they could then return it and get money for the cake, right? If it was misspelled or messed up. So they could use the card to get cake, you know, and I don't know, you know, say get like happy birthday misspelled, and then return the cake saying this is wrong, and then they get cash, you know, for it. So they just gained money. They scammed Carvel, and they scam it thinking, and you know, part of the reason they scam it is thinking no one's going to get hurt by this. Like, this isn't going to affect anybody. It's Carvel. But what ends up happening is the employee gets fired. Who's working at the Carvel gets fired. And again, this is all for comedy. This show isn't really trying, I don't think it's really trying to make a real world point here. But I'm using it to make a real world point here because the thing is, obviously, you know, when you talk about conventional and post-conventional morality, you have to do what you have to do to survive. There's a difference between what Jenna and Kelsey Grammer, and again, I should say, this is a joke. Kelsey Grammer did not actually scam Carvel. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to get it taken out of context. You know, what they did and what Trace and Rafa are doing in the show. And the difference is, Jenna and Kelsey, they already have money in the show. I mean, Kelsey Grammer has money too, but whatever. They are celebrities. I'm just going to say Jenna. I'm going to say Jenna. She is fictional. And I'm not going to get Kelsey Grammer right into this. Jenna Maroney is not only, she has a lot of money. She's a famous celebrity. She's on an SNL type show. She was on America's Got Talent for Kids. You know, she's a famous singer. I mean, I don't think she was recognized that much for her singing, but whatever. Like, she has enough money that she doesn't need the extra money from scamming Carvel. You know, they're just scamming it. She's just scamming it just to scam it. Meanwhile, Trace and Rafa, they need that money. They need that money to not die. They need that money because the Jedi, the elites, you know, in this case, the Jedi, are so focused on their own shit, the war, that they've ignored their duties and what they're actually supposed to do, which is helping the poor. So, it's, you know, but I hope that, you know, Trace and Rafa, and those like Trace and Rafa, can find a solution that involves, I guess, minimal damage to other people around them. And that's why it gets really convoluted and morally gray with like the robots. And actually also another example that they present is that their parents were killed because I forget what the exact situation was, but the Jedi, you know, there was this thing, I think, falling on a bunch of people, and, you know, the explosive, and it was going to kill a bunch of people, and the Jedi redirected it to a building, which is probably not the best idea, but whatever it was, they redirected the bomb, the object, whatever it was, to a location that would cause it to kill less people, less casualties. You know, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. But obviously that caused Trace and Rafa's parents to die, and so now they're kind of screwed and they're on their own. I don't know. This episode is just filled with a bunch of great moral questions. And, you know, something that, you know, Squid Game made me feel terrible because I have been, just personally, I have been panhandled before, and I've kind of, I don't want to say like ignore it. Like I didn't go like, oh, you peasant, I have no money for you. I'm a rich person. I'm not rich, by the way. Like, oh, you peasant, you poor fool, asking for dollars. Like, I never did anything like that, but I would just typically just say no and walk away. But Squid Game made me feel horrible about doing that. Because, you know, that show showed how far people would be willing to go to get some money to fix their life. And it sort of feels like, well, to a less extreme, right? Because the whole point of that show is that nobody cared about them. No one cares about their woes, their plights, their struggles, their desire to just not die, to just survive. Right? You know, it's sort of like that at the end of the show, something that really stuck with me. Is anybody going to help that guy who was freezing and starving, you know, to death? Because everyone thinks he smells bad and he's clearly homeless and no one wants to talk to him. And with this episode, I felt very similarly. Again, I really should do a full video on this episode. I feel like I'm not really even doing this justice, but I am privileged in that I do not have to answer this question. I do not have to generally do post-conventional morality questions, at least not to this extreme. I don't have to wonder how far would I be willing to break my morals to put food on the table. What kind of sketchy shit would I do to not die? And not everyone's in that situation. And I'm sorry to those who are. But I hope that you won't unleash droid robots on the public at the same time for some cash. I hope you can find a way. I hope you can meet in the middle somewhere and find a way to inflict minimal, you know, try to impact the people around you as few as you can. Because obviously, well, you need to survive. It would be nice if other people weren't killed either. I don't know. It's a hot mess. Is all of this talking about this. But this is a great episode. So I'm just going to call it there. Let's move on to the next one. Shifting gears, we now have the final movie now. Which, by the way, the reason I'm calling this movie is twofold. First off, it had... Like, if you start this, if you watch it, if you haven't seen this, and it's been a while, you click on the first episode, it starts off like in almost the same way a movie does. Now, it doesn't have the text, but that's really the only thing it was missing, was the text, and in a long, you know, in a galaxy and far, far away, but everything else felt like a movie. But even like just watching the episode, like it's hard to really explain. But the way it was framed, the way it was shot, the way, you know, the music, the John Williams score in the background, more prevalent than in the previous episodes. Like, everything about this felt like a movie. And honestly, what I think they should have done is you don't have to split it up in the way that they did. You really don't. Just make it like 1-2 hour long movie. I think that's what they should have done. It probably would have been, in reality, like between an hour and a half and 2 hours, I think. But I think that's what they should have done. And I think that would have been better than having to click next episode and skip intro for everything. Because it's just a movie. So as a movie, I'm going to officially just say this now. I'm counting this as a movie. This is the best Star Wars movie since the original trilogy. I'm sorry, it's not even close. Now, to be fair, I have not seen the prequels in full. I have not seen the prequels in full in years and years and years. I've seen clips. I've seen enough clips of it to know, though, that this is the best one. Because the George Lucas-isms are not here. I'm sorry, I will hold this opinion. I've said this before. I think it was in the first Clone Wars. George should not have directed. He just shouldn't have. He's a great ideas man, but I felt like he needed a translator to translate his ideas onto the screen. And this show, and especially this movie, perfectly demonstrates what I mean. There's no awkward dialogue. There's no bad pacing. There's the lightsaber fights are, I would say, are paced well. That's what I just said. You know, there's no scenes that really don't need to be here. Like, I'm looking at you, you know, added scenes that were added on into episode 4 and episode 6. None of that is here. The pacing is so tight and great. The dialogue, I mean, there is some good dialogue in here. I think Maul has some great dialogue. But you know, it's not like over the top amazing. It's not like, wow, I'm gonna be quoting this for centuries, but it's not I like sand. Oh, sorry. I hate sand. It's not Sith Lords are our speciality. It's not, it's over, Anakin. I have the high ground. You underestimate my power. It's not, now this is pod racing. It's not, no, I'm gonna get him now. That's Anakin in episode 2. Like, it's not, none of that. It's just normal, solidly written dialogue. It's paced well, and it's great. It's honestly great. I felt like I was a kid again, honestly, watching this, because I didn't know it was going to be like a movie. And so I sort of felt like I was watching a new Star Wars movie for the first time, and unlike the other ones, it's actually really good. Like, I can't explain. That's just what it felt like. It felt like I was watching, like, episode 4. I wouldn't say episode 4, because that was my first Star Wars movie. It felt like, I don't know, like, let's say Return of the Jedi. It felt like I was watching Return of the Jedi for the first time again. Which, honestly, this is the first time I've even considered saying this about a Star Wars movie. I think this might be better than Return of the Jedi. Like, I seriously think that. I've never thought that any of the Star Wars movies since then have been able to hold a candle to the original 3. This might be better than Return of the Jedi. And just to be clear, the reason why I'm saying this is better than Return of the Jedi is because Return of the Jedi is awesome, and I love Return of the Jedi. You will never not make me love Return of the Jedi. But the pacing, you know, I just talked about how the pacing is so tight in this movie, this Clone Wars movie. Return of the Jedi, listen, everything to do with Luke in this movie is absolute gold. It is top tier Star Wars. That whole sequence of Luke, Vader, and Palpatine on the Death Star, it's amazing. You know, it is the best Star Wars. It's some of the best Star Wars you will ever see. It's just so fantastic. And I like the ship part too. Well, you know, I think it's a good way to complement that. What really slows it down is the Ewoks. I mean, they're cute, but we didn't need to see as much of the Ewok village as we did. And I'm curious to see. I was talking with a friend not that long ago about it, and he said that this was originally supposed to be Kashyyyk with the Wookiees, and I would have much preferred that. I don't know how true that is. I'm gonna have to look it up. I'm gonna see yes or no. Is that true right now? You know, I have to do some digging when I'm editing this, but that was true. Would much prefer that, because the Ewoks, it's just a little too much. Like, seeing C-3PO recount the events of the past 2 movies, it's cool, it's fun. Like, do we really need that though? Do we really need as much of the Ewoks in this movie as we did? The answer, I'll tell you, is no. So that's what I mean. I never once felt anything like that in this Clone Wars movie. Never did. The pacing was so tight. It was so great that it might be. Like, it just straight up might be better than Return of the Jedi. And I can't believe I'm having this discussion. I can't believe it's even a discussion. Because no Star Wars movie has ever made me feel that way. You know, and also to be clear, the reason I'm saying Return of the Jedi is obviously it's the worst of the original 3, but it's still fucking amazing. You know, I saw it in theaters for 25th anniversary. I think it was 25. No, it can't be 25. 35. Whatever it was. Whatever anniversary where it was, where I was in theaters for a couple of days. I saw it. I had the best time. And I still love that movie to death. But this one just made it better. It may be better. Okay, so let's talk about why. Why is this movie better, or potentially better than true? Well, let's not even. I'm not even gonna do that discussion. I will say in terms of ranking, though, it is either the first 3 and then this one, and then nothing else matters, or it is A New Hope. Let's just put this right next to Return of the Jedi for now. So, Empire Strikes Back, A New Hope, then Return of the Jedi and this are right next to each other. Then I don't really care to rank any of the other ones below that. And this is just for movies, by the way. I was also mostly thinking, as I was saying this, I was mostly thinking episodic movies. I guess if you were purely to go off of the movies, what would be next would be Rogue One? I guess? Probably. I think Rogue One is the best Disney movie, but it has Star Wars movie, but it's too slow. The ending, that we all know and love is great. It is great. It takes way too long to actually get to that point, though. So, I don't know. That's a discussion for another time. Really, in order to answer those questions, I have to do something that I'm really not super excited to do, which is I have to rewatch the prequels and I have to rewatch the sequels, and then I can decide the rankings. But for right now, this is what I'm gonna have it as. So, why is this so amazing? I already talked about the Anakin and Ashoka scene, which broke my heart. I also love, by the way, that how they sort of referenced what's going on in Revenge of the Sith. Because I was trying to follow... I have some idea of the way things happen in my head, in that movie. I have an idea, but because it's been so long since I've actually sat down and watched the movie start to finish, it was hard. It was a little, So I was trying to think about, when Obi Wan was in that hologram talking to Ahsoka, I was trying to think, okay, is Dooku dead? And then Obi Wan did say that Dooku was dead. And, sort of at other points. So it was nice that they referenced it. Obviously, Order 66 was a galaxy-wide thing. But, what was I going to say? Oh, Ahsoka senses when Anakin kills Mace Windu, and when that happened... And there was something else. Oh, there was a mention, when Ahsoka's talking to the Jedi Council for a second. He mentioned that Obi-Wan was sent to kill Grievous. It's cool that you have those tie-ins, so you can kind of go in your head, okay, this is where they are about in the movie. And so that was really great. Just... Okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about Ahsoka versus Darth Maul. This scene is... I don't even know. It's so good. This is one of the best lightsaber fights in Star Wars, hands down. And if we're going to count it as a movie fight, so this is the only lightsaber fight in this movie. And it's not in the climax, by the way. All the other Star Wars movies have their lightsaber fights for the end. No, not here. Where would I rank this lightsaber fight? This is the only one in terms of choreography. So I love the Luke Vader from Empire, but you sort of have to give that one the benefit of the doubt when you're doing rankings, because it was the second lightsaber duel they've ever done, right? And you look at the first one, it's kind of wonky. So I don't want to give benefit of the doubt, but if we're talking about purely choreography, the only one, choreography and pacing, like if we're ignoring the plot significance and we're not giving that Empire fight the benefit of the doubt, there is only one fight that even comes close to this one in movies. And it is, of course, not Anakin versus Obi Wan. I know you thought I was going there. Hell no, the pacing of that is so bad. It starts out great, then it goes on for way too long, and it ends with a high ground. It's not Anakin Obi Wan. It is, of course, Obi Wan and Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul in Episode 1. That is the only fight that could stand with this Ahsoka Maul fight. Ugh, so good. I don't even know what to say. It's just so damn good, and it doesn't go on for too long. That's something I loved about the lightsaber fights in the show as a whole. I felt the prequel ones, aside from Maul, go on for too long. The pacing's not right. They have an anticlimactic ending. All of that stuff. Ahsoka this fight does not go on for too long. It has a little break, which is fine. The Darth Maul one in Phantom Menace had a break too, which is great. It was great how it worked here, and it's great how, unlike in the Anakin Obi-Wan one, and the ending was just great. See, they fight without lightsabers and everything, and then, if you haven't seen Clone Wars, just watch just like 5 minutes. I swear it will make you want to watch the whole thing. It's absolutely, it's amazing. Even more than the choreography of the fight. The fight just being so amazing. As amazing as it was, it's again, what was I gonna say? Oh, Maul in this movie is really good. This is the best version of Maul in this movie than in the show, because he's so focused on Obi-Wan in Clone Wars, and then he doesn't really say that much or do that much in the Phantom Menace. He's kind of just there to be this ominous Sith, and then is killed. In this fight, in this movie, he's really good. I like that he still probably would have taken the opportunity to murder Obi-Wan if Obi-Wan and Anakin had come, but I like that that's not his goal anymore, right? His goal is he's kind of sees what's going on. He finally sees what his old master is up to. And his biggest goal is he wants to stop it. He wants to stop it. He knows how much that would screw him over, and he is not happy about it. And I also have an interesting question. I'm curious what you guys think. So obviously, Maul propositions to Ahsoka to join him in defeating Palpatine. And I do think, by the way, Ahsoka is right in that if they had succeeded, Maul would have just replaced him. He's a Sith. He just would have used that power in the way he saw fit. Absolutely, this is what had happened. But my interesting question is, could they have won in the first place? Like serious question. Because I think the two of them probably could have taken Palpatine. Ahsoka is really strong, and obviously Sidious beat Maul and Savage Opress, but Savage Opress, he didn't have, I wouldn't say the training. He was strong, but he lacked the discipline. He was sort of just attack, and he didn't know how to like defend or anything. He was just, if attack doesn't work, just attack again. Like, there was no strategy or anything. I think Ahsoka and Maul, and obviously I think Maul only got stronger too, and Ahsoka's obviously really strong. I think they could have taken Palpatine, but could they have taken Palpatine and Vader? Especially because this would be Vader before he gets the suit. And the answer, because I think if they went and attacked Palpatine, Anakin would have stepped in. I do. Like what happened with Windu. I think he would have officially, if they tried to attack Palpatine, Anakin would have officially become Vader in that moment and would have defended him. And the reality is, with how strong Anakin is, especially him leaning into the dark side, I don't think they could take both of them. I don't. I just straight up. I think they could take, both of them could take Vader, again, I'm just talking about Vader before he has the suit on. So this is probably like Anakin at his peak power. I think they could take Vader by the two of them together, and I think they could take Palpatine, the two of them together. But I think if they're fighting both of them at the same time, I don't really think they have a chance. Just being honest, like I don't. And it's also like an individual, especially because it's an individual thing. Ahsoka versus Vader. I give the edge to Vader. I really do. Again, this is without the armor. With the armor, Ahsoka, I think with the armor, Ahsoka could probably beat him up. But I still think it'd be close. I think either way it'd be close, but I think Vader would win. And I think Vader would beat Maul pretty easily. I think Vader would kind of crush Maul, honestly. I think what would give Ahsoka the biggest advantage is that she knows him, right? Like, she knows how to fight him. But that's sort of true the other way too. So I don't know. I think that one will be really close. But I think Vader would just beat up on Maul. And neither of them can take Palpatine. So like together, But anyway, I'm going to get to the real meat and potatoes of all this. Order 66. Oh my god. This was so good. And I like how they sort of set up the scene for the other Jedi in the beginning, where they said like, oh, the Jedi are on missions, and they show the missions that they are killed at with Order 66. I love that, it's sort of like Empire, right? So you look at Empire Strikes Back, which is, again, in case, I already said, my favorite Star Wars movie. That movie is about the rebels just trying to not die from the Empire. That's what it is. They're just running away from the Empire, and then it's like, oops, we found you. We found you, get fucked. And then Luke tries to save him, and he gets fucked too. And that's sort of what this movie turns into, right? Like, not really with the Empire, but it just turns into, right? So obviously Ahsoka captured Maul. She did the job, and then it completely 180 from that until, oh, let's do our next mission. Let's see what's going on here. To, oh my god, I just need to not die. Right? The entire clone army that's on this ship is trying to kill me. How do I not die? That's just what it comes into. And I love that she basically undoes the mission by freeing Maul. He's like, I'm not going to be able to do this by myself. I need a distraction. Go. Go out there. And so, again, it's really just... The 180 of that is just brilliant. The 180 of doing the job to... I just need to survive. I just need to live. I just need to not die. And I just... Oh, it's so good. And then, so, Maul beating up on the clones, and Maul escaping, that part is so sad that, right, so Maul gets into ship, is going away, and Ahsoka's trying to use the Force to get it back, being like, I need to get away. I need to not die. Help me out. Let me live. But Maul's just like, I don't fucking care about you, bitch. And leaves. So Ahsoka's trapped. And again, I love that the whole thing is, I'm facing this army. How do I not die. And I love what I talked about earlier in this season too. You know, in this episode, and we're talking about in other episodes in season 4, I talk about A Few Good Men and how every soldier matters. I love how that still isn't kept intact in this storyline. You know, what did 5 say? Not 5. The one that was malfunctioning with the chip. What did he say? Good soldiers follow orders. Good soldiers follow orders. Good soldiers follow orders. So you have that coming back with the clones just doing their job, doing what they were told to do is right. You know, Rex explicitly says to them before he gets the chip removed, it was treason. It's treason if you don't do this. So, what does it mean to be a good soldier? But not also that, there's still people. Ahsoka says it. Ahsoka says these are still people. I don't want to kill them. And Rex says, they don't care. They're trying to kill us. They don't really, you know, they could care less what you think. That, you know, they're being a good soldier. It's so amazing. So amazing. And so, yeah. And I love that when the ship crashes and they all die and Ahsoka and Rex make it out, they honor them with their with the helmet sticking up, as if saying, this is not your fault. You were doing your job. Just symbolism here. It's just amazing. And it's really, and I love Ahsoka dropping her lightsaber at the end, too. Sort of saying, I'm not a Jedi anymore. I no longer walk this path. That's done. So many layers. So good. So good. It's so amazing. Like, even, I'm geeking out about it now. And then, even if you don't, I'm just going to say this, like, just watch this. Just watch it. Even if you haven't seen Clone Wars before, watch it. So amazing. And, also, I'm wondering what Vader thinks at the end when he grabbed Ahsoka's lightsaber. So, I don't know. Does he think she's dead? Does he want her to be dead? Like, I wonder what's curious exactly through his mind, exactly through his mind there. Like, what would happen if he saw her again? And I know they do meet each other. It's been years since I watched it, but I know they meet in Rebels. That clip. But, the Jedi are done, you know? And it's so depressing, but so good. Good soldiers follow orders. Good soldiers follow orders. Good soldiers follow orders. And I like what they said in A Few Good Men, just going back to that again. You know, what they said with the verdict. You know, they as a Marine were expected to stand up to Santiago. Stand up for people in need, including Santiago, and that included Santiago. That's what being a good soldier means, not following orders. It's just, And again, there's still people, right? It's just, so good. Just go watch it. So that wraps it up for Clone Wars. I'm kind of sad that I'm done with this show. I'm done talking about it. But I'm not done talking about it. Those video essays, they will come at some point. And if you're curious what episodes I'm going to talk about that I have written down, you can see them for yourselves. Here are the notes I have written down. I'll just give them to you real quick. Only a Sith deals in absolutes, talking about Season 2, Episode 2. A Soldier's Right to Choose, Clone Wars Season 2, Episode 9. And then those two episodes that I mentioned in season. You know, the episodes I already talked about a bunch in Season 7. And there's more I could talk about too, but that was just kind of when I was watching the show. I didn't really write down video essay ideas for everyone, but those were two that I thought were worthy. You know, for every time I got the idea. But I was kind of for most of the show, I was kind of just watching the show. So, I don't know. Those will happen someday. But before I officially wrap this up, I want to give this an official ranking. I've already talked about where I would rank the Clone Wars movies. Now I'm going to talk about Clone Wars as a show. So Clone Wars as a show is difficult to rank because Clone Wars, it has some good Star Wars in there. It has some bad Star Wars in there. It has some great Star Wars in there. And it has some top tier Star Wars in there. So it's a little difficult to officially give this a ranking. But I'm going to do my best. So, I'm not so much give this a ranking as rank this with the other Star Wars media. I mean, if you've seen these videos, you know how I feel about this. There are certain storylines I absolutely love. There's certain storylines I absolutely hate. And there's plenty of storylines that were in the middle. So, probably most of them were in the middle, honestly. So where would I put it? I would... it's tough. So to me, the best Star Wars since Star Wars, and I'm talking about the original trilogy when I say that, has been Mando seasons 1 and 2. Season 3, it was enjoyable, but it was not nearly as good as the first two. The first two, top tier Star Wars, absolutely amazing. If you haven't seen it, what are you doing? Go watch it. Just spend the rest of just go watch it. It's just amazing. But this was also, I don't know. I would say the Clone Wars movie, in my opinion, is probably better than the Mando season 1 and 2. Again, I'm talking about the season 7 movie, not the first movie that started the show. Again, Clone Wars that paralleled episode 3. I don't know. Episode 3, Order 66. Episode 3, The Fall of the Jedi. Episode 3, The Attack on Mandalore. Whatever you want to call it, that was definitely better than Mando seasons 1 and 2. But I don't know that I can put the show as a whole higher than that. But at the same time, it's a bit of an apples and oranges situation because Clone Wars was a network television show with 20 episode blocks. So obviously not every story was going to be a banger. When Mando was a streaming show, they could just do the 7 episodes they wanted to tell and leave it at that. So it's a bit of an apples and oranges situation. But let's just say Clone Wars the show, let's just put it right about Mando's seasons 1 and 2. So original trilogy, Clone Wars movie, although actually I talked about how Clone Wars movie and Return of the Jedi, or episode 3, Order 66, I don't know. Episode 3, The Fall of the Jedi, how about that? Yeah, that's actually not a bad title. No, because it sounds too close to Return of the Jedi. But whatever, let's just... episode 3, The Fall of the Jedi, working title is work in progress. Then, right next to Return. Then below that, Mando seasons 1 and 2, and Clone Wars around there. Then below that, probably Andor, which I enjoyed quite a bit. It's a bit of a little hop down. But then after that, I don't know. It's hot. It gets to be a hot mess after that. Let's just say that. I'm gonna wrap it up. I did not expect to be doing this for this long. I'm gonna be honest. But and unlike Lord of the Rings, this was all recorded in one session. So I really did just spend like 2 hours just doing this. But anyway, with that wrapped up, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for watching all of my Clone Wars videos, as I hope you have. And if you have missed them, go back and watch them all. So seasons 1 through 3 I did as a combined video at first because I started watching the show before I started doing these reviews. So I did that, but so I have seasons 1 through 3 and then 4, 5, 6, 7 as their own videos. If you're watching this, that means they are all up at this point. I'm not uploading them out of order. Also, like I said, keep an eye out for Dune Part 1 movie review. it will either be, depending on, go down and look and see when you're watching this, when it was uploaded. If it was after Halloween, if this upload date is in November something, that means that review is probably up now. If this title is, unless it's like November 1st or something, if you go down and it's October, or like one of the first days of November, then that means that Dune review should be coming soon. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I also want to do a Dune review part 2, of movie part 2. And at some point, the Two Towers review is coming. I have to finish reading that book though, which who knows where I'll be at when this is uploaded. I have other stuff, I want to read that I want to talk about. So just keep your eye out. If you enjoyed this video, and you made it this far, just, feel free to sub, like, comment, all that, and just keep your eye out because I am not done making these kind of videos. I enjoy making them quite a bit. So, I just want to say thanks for watching. If you watched this far, it's kind of crazy that you watched this far. I'm not expecting most people to watch this far, but if you watch this far, thank you. And you want to support the channel, like, sub, look at this graph, and that's really it, man. I have other stuff to do now. I can't spend all day in front of the computer talking. I have a life, but with that, I'm gonna see everybody. So I'll see you in a future video, or you'll see me in a future video. I will not see any of you guys. I don't know when I'll see any of you guys. If I see any of you guys, whatever. I'm rambling. That's what I've been doing for the past 90 minutes. And thank you guys for watching this far. And